very first guest speaker of the year. I'm really excited to have Dr. Herring talk with us tonight. Dr. Herring specializes in environmental statistics and data science. She has done amazing research on wind energy and water reuse applications, and she also recently co-authored and published a book on statistical processing monitoring using advanced data-driven and deep learning approaches, and it sounds really complex to me. Dr. Herring was also once a Baylor Bear. She graduated from Baylor University with a degree in mathematics. So if you have any questions or you would like any advice from her for undergraduate years, you may ask after the talk. And lastly, Dr. Herring has also completed a large-scale project at Baylor. One of most recently was establishment of the first cohort of the NSF-funded Data Science Fellows Program. And today she'll be sharing with us about her background and current and future research. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. So I want to thank you guys for having me at your very first meeting. I'm like overwhelmed with all the information that you were just inundated with. It just seems like, wow, you guys are super serious, which is awesome. You're exactly the students I want to be talking to. So I'm going to share my screen by clicking the button. Yeah, there we go. And thanks, Joyce. I mean, you pretty much did a lot of my introducing for me. So there we go. Can you guys still see the screen? See my screen? All right. Yeah. So thanks for having me again. I went on Birth's website today and was really impressed with all of you guys' activities and what you're doing. And so like Joy said, I'm in the Department of Statistical Science, and probably a lot of you, especially if you're in the sciences, are going to be taking a statistics class at some point along the way. And so I'm here to sort of shamelessly promote data science and try to get you guys to take a data science class and tell you about a research opportunity that I think would be really valuable for freshmen. So I'll get started by clicking. So I was just going to give you a little bit of background about where I've been grown. So the first place, beginning in 1977 up to 1995, I was in Lafayette, Louisiana, which, yes, just experienced the big hurricane. They didn't lose power like North Louisiana did, but that's where I grew up. It's, I said, home of the Raging Cajuns. That's where University of Louisiana is. And in fact, my dad was a professor there for a long time, all my growing up years. So yes, Raging Cajuns. I left Louisiana as soon as I could. So as soon as I graduated from high school. It's wonderful. I'm sure there's probably some of you here who are from Louisiana. It's great. I just wanted to get out a bit and see the rest of the country. So then, like Joyce said, I moved to Baylor and got my undergraduate degree in math. And I actually minored in environmental science as well. Yeah, so why math? Sort of thinking back, I'm actually pretty intimidated by all of you lab science majors, because I majored in math precisely because I didn't want to have to go to all those labs, and I didn't want to have to write papers. But it's kind of funny because that's all I do now is write papers. So write journal papers. Yeah, so I figured, mathematics, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It seems hard. Maybe it'll be useful at some point. It'll be in demand in some way. And at the end of my degree, I looked back over all of my classes and I thought, which one did I really like the most? And I really liked statistics the most because it can be applied to any discipline in any field. And that really appealed to me because I was an undecided major for a long time because I just kind of liked everything. And so I liked the idea of, as a statistician, the saying goes, we get to play in everybody's backyard. I get to be an expert in statistics, but I also get to learn a little bit about lots of other people's fields. And that's really fun for me. So from there, I took a big leap up to Montana State. I did an internship over the summer with the Bureau of Land Management. I don't know, through some, I went to the like Baylor Career Center or something and wound up with some internship there. I don't even remember the name of the program, but it just goes to show how you spend your summers can be really influential on where you wind up. So I spent a couple of summers up there. It was like the best job ever because they essentially paid me for hiking around in the mountains and collecting data along these beautiful streams and hiking up through the mountains. So it was a great job. But I was just there in the summers and I thought to myself, I'm a Louisiana girl. I've never experienced a real winter. I wonder what that would be like. And so on a whim, like the whole online applications were just starting. And so I had like applied to Montana State online to get a degree in statistics. And I'd actually forgotten about it until my mom came with this envelope. She's like, "Did you apply to Montana State?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And they gave me a scholarship. So I was like, okay, well, why not? It's not going to hurt anything. So I went ahead and packed everything up in my little Honda Civic and drove to Montana. So, yeah, about 2 years of winter there was about enough for me though. When it's still snowing in June and it's hot and sunny in Texas, it's unpleasant. So I moved back to Texas, and at that point I actually taught high school for a couple of years, and then realized that that's a really hard job, and so decided I would just go back to school. And I was already living in College Station, so I applied to their PhD program in statistics, and they accepted me. And it turned out to be great. I mean, I am not the poster child for planning your career because things just happened. They just happened to me. I didn't plan it. I was already living in College Station. I had no idea that Texas A&M was one of the top schools, top graduate schools for statistics, and they're the only one that I applied to. So don't follow my my progress there, or follow my example there. So yeah, so every year I thought, well, at least it's another year not teaching high school, and if it works out, it works out. and it did work out, and it turned out that there's a huge demand, there's a huge job market for statisticians. And so when I graduated with my PhD, I had a ton of interviews all across the country, and I wound up here at Colorado School of Mines, is where I started out as a faculty member. And some of you who might be from Colorado will know of Colorado School of Mines, and others of you won't have ever heard of it. It's a smallish engineering university. Primarily engineering degrees is what they offer. It's about 6,000 students, and it's actually kind of similar to Baylor in the sense that it's a public school, but it kind of have like private school tuition. So kind of similar to Baylor in that way. They're very selective, and so they're really, really good students. And so I spent 7 years there, and then after those 7 years, again, it's still pretty cold, and I just, there's really not even any going to the pool in the summer, because it just never gets warm enough. So back to Texas we moved, and so this is where we are now. And so if we follow this pattern, because statisticians are always about finding patterns in data, I think the next place that I move is going to be somewhere in here. So somewhere in the panhandle of Texas. So that's just a little bit about my background. I am not watching the chat, so if there are questions, Joyce or Shubneet, if you want to stop me and ask, I can answer. Yeah, so we've been at Baylor for 4 years, and I have to say it's very different being here as a faculty member compared to being a student. I think when I was a student at Baylor, I lived on campus all 4 years, Coconut, and then I think I lived in Allen for the next 3 years. And of course, everything's changed. All the residence halls have changed. A lot of students tend to not live on campus all 4 years. This was back before cell phones, before GPS. When you ventured out into Waco, it was like taking your life into your own hands. I was like, had my little paper map and hoped I didn't get lost when I would leave campus. And yeah, now it's totally different. So now I've visited places in Waco that I never had gone as a student. So it's completely different. And I think just about all of the professors that I had as a student have now retired. So every once in a while I see someone, but they're pretty much all gone now. And of course, Baylor's much bigger now than when I was a student. I think there were only about 10 or 12,000 students when I was an undergraduate, and now there's I think over 17,000. So definitely the sidewalks are busier than they used to be. And the BSB, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of all of you who spend time in the BSB. It's such a beautiful building. I like to just walk by it sometimes and dream about being in the BSB. But yeah, my office is in Mars McLean Science, which I also like because it's sort of right in the heart of campus, right across from the library and along the mall. But yeah, so that's pretty much me, my background, why I got into statistics. Um, I would say every year since then has been sort of an adventure. I know that there are certainly some programs on campus that are really good about kind of coming alongside undergraduate students and helping you prepare for graduate school if that's something that you're interested in, and thinking about how you would apply, where you would go, and how you navigate all of that. And so I think the graduate school has some programs. I think one of them is called, I want to say it's called GUMP, GUMP. Is that right? Anybody know? It's like a graduate student gets paired with an undergraduate to sort of help them figure out or navigate through, um, what they might think about or what they might be going through if they were going to go into grad school. So there's some good programs out there if that's something that you're interested in. And of course, that's what I was interested in, going to graduate school. And then, once I got my PhD, I was kind of like, well, I've always got high school teaching to fall back on, but hopefully, hopefully I don't have to go back to that. And thankfully, there were a lot of jobs for statisticians, and there's still a ton of jobs for statisticians. And the terminology has changed over time. There's been people talk about statistics, big data, um, AI, machine learning. What else? Data science now is the buzzword that everyone uses. Um, and so, you know, government agencies like the National Science Foundation are interested in growing a bigger crop of students who are capable of doing data science. And so that's part of this. It's a $1.2 million NSF award that I was in charge of, I am the leader of. It's called the PI. I'm the principal investigator of this big project. And we have faculty at Baylor and faculty at Colorado School of Mines as well, that are working together to get this particular grant. And this particular grant, NSF has like 10 big ideas. So what are like the big science challenges in the world? And one of them is called Harnessing the Data Revolution. And so they've built up a whole set of awards that are designed to try to get more people into data science, right? And so this is one of their little graphics. And yeah, so this particular grant that we secured is the purpose, the goal of it is to develop the 21st century data capable workforce, and not necessarily to make all of you data scientists, and not necessarily to make you a computer scientist or a statistician, but to give you a set of skills that you could potentially bring into your whatever field of study that you're interested in or that you are committed to. So for us, one of the things that we felt like was missing were sort of some bottom rungs on this ladder. If some of you guys who are juniors and seniors, you know that the probability and statistics class that you take, let's see, if you are pre-med, you're probably taking 2381. Joyce, give me a thumbs up if that's right. Yeah, okay, great. So you're taking 2381. I know a lot of the engineers and computer scientists, they're taking 3381. So you're not hitting a statistics class until maybe late in your sophomore or junior year, unless you're, you've got some credits built up and you've progressed onto those courses early. But some of the sort of the problem with that class is you learn a lot of very formulaic stuff. You learn formulas, you learn hypothesis testing, you learn confidence intervals, and all that stuff is important. And you do some of that stuff as a data scientist, but it's not very inspiring. It's not super exciting. It doesn't really give you a full picture of what a data scientist might do. And really, you don't get that picture until you're at the end of your degree when you do some sort of senior capstone. And so, you start out here with probability statistics or intro to programming in computer science, and then you have to take all these classes before you get to see what a real data-centric project might look like. And so our pitch to NSF to get this award was, hey, we need to provide students with some soft entry points where you can really get a sense of what data science is and how you might use it in your degree, right? All right. So you may be thinking to yourself at this point, well, what is a data scientist and what is that about? This graphic is a little bit small, but here's your classic Venn diagram. So you can't be a statistician or a mathematician without showing some fun diagrams in your presentation. But it's sort of the overlap between computer science, where you're doing some programming, math and statistics, where you're doing data analysis, and some sort of subject matter expertise. And so when people first started talking about data science, they said, okay, well, the intersection of all those things, that's data science. And people said, people like that don't exist. They're the unicorns of the academic world, If they exist, they are just, snapped up like crazy. And so it's, at least starting out with data science, you really tended to kind of stick to your field and not interact much with other people. But as we're progressing, and certainly through this particular project, the idea is to try to integrate all of those three things together. And this is one of the former senior vice presidents of products at Google. Well, the advisor to that guy said, data is the sort of the 21st century, and those who wield it well are the samurai. So you can be a samurai and a unicorn. You have some data science skills, and it really will potentially help you get a really good job. So, so here's my pitch here. Even if you just take, say, a set of core classes, say maybe 4 classes, or get a minor, for example, in statistics or computer science, you can increase your annual income over $10,000 a year, right? So like if you're the only person at your company who knows how to work with an Excel spreadsheet or knows how to work with R and manage data in your company, wow, you're going to be a super valuable employee. And so, that's what you want to gain the skills while you're at Baylor so that you can be a valuable employee. And that helps you like just weather the storm through market upturns and downturns, right? And if you look on Glassdoor, you can click these links, and I can share my slides, Joyce, if people want them later. Being a data scientist is one of the top jobs in the US, and median salary, I would say that's probably a median salary of maybe like a master's level data scientist. But certainly it's becoming more and more common that you can get a job with just an undergraduate degree in statistics, computer science, or data science, because and this is sort of based on, and I think there's another, oh gosh, sorry, I'm starting to get mixed up. There's another ranking that ranks like top jobs in the US, and data scientist is one of the very top ones, and they rank it based on median salary, which is high, of course, number of job openings available, which tends to be high, and also just job satisfaction of people who are in those positions. So people tend to like being data scientists. It's a fun job. It's relatively low stress, low anxiety. It's not like you're doing open heart surgery on someone and you have someone's life in your hands, right? So it's not that, right? There we go. And so the title of our project is Mo Water. I thought it was pretty clever, but it stands for Modernizing Water and Wastewater Treatment Through Data Science Education and Research. So we kind of had to have an application area. So where are we going to find problems that undergraduate students can work on? And so we decided, because that's one of my research areas, is wastewater treatment and improving, optimizing wastewater treatment operations, that would be our application area. And it's important, right? I mean, water is completely fundamental. You can go 40 days with no food, but only 3 days without water, right? And, I just put this little plot up there, over a large percentage of the world's population experiences water scarcity at some point in the year. And so we don't have the quantity of water and the quality of water when and where it's needed. And this applies even not just in, say, the Western US. So there are even places in the Eastern US where they get plenty of rain during the year, where they just don't have enough water. So Atlanta is a good example. Florida is a good example. There are always disagreements over who can use what water and when. And a lot of that has to do with urbanization. So people are becoming much more concentrated in these urban centers. And so those urban centers are demanding high volumes of water. And so some of the solutions are to think about, instead of having these huge centralized water and wastewater treatment facilities, to have decentralized facilities. These are more nimble, more flexible. And these, for example, decentralized facilities that treat wastewater, the idea would be you treat the wastewater and then you could reuse it locally. You could reuse it to water the lawn, not only water, but also fertilize crops, if you leave some of the nutrients in the water. So this is one of my grad students. This is Luke. He was the teaching assistant for our class in the summer program that I'm going to talk about in a second. And he's leaning over this, let's see, SB, NBR, SB, biological reactor. The S stands for something. I'm just spacing it at the moment. But it's just basically a bunch of nasty sludge. There's lots of microorganisms in here, and they aerate it at various times. Like I think it's like 10 minutes of aeration, and then they stop aerating, and that feeds different microorganisms in the water, and then those different microorganisms will break down different constituents in the water that you want to remove. And so they have a small footprint, so they don't require much space. And so the idea is, can we put these someplace where a whole apartment complex, provides water to one of these facilities, and then reuse the water instead of just treating it and releasing it back into the environment. But because they're smaller facilities, they require very vigilant monitoring to mitigate risks. One, to the system itself, so the system doesn't break down. One, to human health, of course, because you wouldn't want to be drinking water that isn't of good quality. And then also environmental health. You wouldn't want to release water back into the environment. It has a lot of nutrients in it. And this is another grad student, Kate, and yes, that is poop. And so she is spraying off I think that was one of her undergraduate students who was working with her, because they had to actually get down into that tank and clean it out. As a pretty bad job. That's another reason why I'm a statistician and I'm not an engineer. I don't have to do those dirty jobs. So so there's really two components to this program, and I'm glad to kind of get you guys thinking about this early on. There's an introduction to data science class, and it will be offered in this coming spring. So it's supposed to be at the moment Tuesday, Thursday from 11 to 12:15 in the spring. There are no prerequisites. So that means it's 2300 level course, but freshmen can take it because there are no prerequisites. And it's going to be, it is taught both with statistics and computer science faculty. And there's a picture of the first cohort. And there was Joyce. She stayed for the first couple of weeks, but I couldn't convince her to stay. She was too busy. She had too many other classes to take. But I'm hoping to get her back another semester. But you know, this is one of the things we do. We want to recruit students who are coming from a wide variety of backgrounds, who have a wide variety of interests. Maybe you have zero coding skills. You've never done any computer programming in your entire life. That's who we want to take this class, because I think you're going to really grow a lot and learn a lot. And you know, our goal is to get you thinking about either majoring or minoring in some data science related field, whether it be statistics or computer science. And I think there is now officially a data science degree in the computer science department. Yeah. And so this class for the spring is going to be fully online. So this is where we started out. This is how we all looked in person. And then in March last year, as so many of us experienced, we all went online. And it actually worked really well online to do the class online. I think it's definitely harder to get to know people individually, but we're going to work on that. We have some tricks up our sleeves for next semester. And it was kind of cool because what we would do is you would watch videos outside of class, and then in class we were doing coding projects. So you would be given real data sets, which is one of the things that students really liked. Is, you know, we've got real data from our stakeholder partners, from industry, from other federal agencies who want to partner with us to provide us with problems and with data. Sometimes the data sets are really, really big. So that was maybe a mistake to throw them at people right up front. So we're going to hold off on that this year. But you get exposure to a real data set and to real problems that are important to solve. So the second part is a data science fellows program. So if you take the class, then you really are setting yourself up to apply to this data science fellows program. And so we're looking for students like, ideally, who the summer after their freshman year or the summer after their sophomore year to participate in this. And why so early? Really because we're thinking of it as like a pre-REU experience. So REU is a research experience for undergraduates. These tend to be programs like 10 to 12-week programs, and it could be at university campuses around the country. And so we're doing, so it's kind of like a mini REU because it's only 5 weeks. So it's kind of shorter than a full REU. And our goal is to kind of get you something on your resume, give you some really good experience, and give you sort of a stepping stone to go apply for REUs or apply for industry internships. It is this paid by NSF. And so it's $15 an hour for up to 40 hours a week. So honestly, this past summer, we just paid everyone $3,000. It was just a blank $3,000 check because we couldn't keep track of hours. It was like beyond me to keep track of people's hours. And our dates are, sorry, that should not be a question mark, should be a dash. We haven't yet confirmed them, but it's generally the 5 weeks from the end of May to the very beginning of July. So for example, if you're going to take a class in the second summer session, you could still do that, or you could take a vacation with your family or take some time off. But we put students in small teams to solve a real problem. So this last summer, we did students in groups of 3, and I do sort of a survey to kind of gauge strengths and weaknesses and what your comfort level is with, you know, writing and presentation and communication and R coding and statistics, computer science. We try to put a blend of people with all different skill sets on each team. To apply, you have to have at least 30 credit hours and be You can participate in the program if you're not a US citizen or permanent resident. We can only pay you if you're a US citizen or permanent resident. So this past summer, we had a couple of international students who participated. We'd like for you to have taken at least one course in statistics or computer science. Ideally, you would have taken the Introduction to Data Science class because that really sets you up to have a really great experience in the summer program. And then like a letter from one of your faculty members. It doesn't have to be a long letter. And you can apply at our website. And so this is, you just go to the website and you click on summer research, and I don't think it's available just yet, but it'll be up by the end of this semester. And so we'll start looking at applications in February. These are just some quotes from students about the summer program. You know, the summer program had to evolve to meet our sort of changing environment. We were planning to do it in person, of course, but that didn't work out. And there were several points at which we thought, do we even need to do the summer program this summer? Is it too much? And finally, we just decided we're going to go forward with it. We're going to do it fully online. We had students at Baylor, students at Colorado School of Mines, all working together. And it worked out. And we did an exit interview at the end of the 5 weeks. And these are some of the comments that I really liked because I was concerned that students would really get to connect and click with their teammates. And I think that all three of these comments really show that people did, you know, even though it was, I feel like we're all sort of making concessions all the time. You know, it's not the best, but I feel like they really did connect with each other and have a good time. And it was not only connections with the other students, but they got to have meetings with the stakeholder partners. And a lot of people made comments about how much they enjoyed, you know, they'd taken a look at the data and then they got to talk to the people who collected the data, and that was a really cool thing. I like this part of the comment where it says, it felt like we were working in the real world. I imagine you're always working with other people in different locations and having video chats, etc. Yes, that is definitely my real world of research, is always having video chats. And I'm sure you guys are now all on board with that as well. These were some of our stakeholder partners for this past summer. And I just threw up some different graphics from some of the projects that the students put together, and I don't know, they just look cool. And if that doesn't convince you, there will be a t-shirt, and this is actually the shirt for next year. I kind of like this one because it looked like a wave, you know, and water and waves. So that's sort of the theme. But this came from what's called a lasso regression. So if you're familiar with regression, a lasso regression is sort of a modern way to do variable selection in a regression. So this was one of the figures that was created in R by one of the students during this summer's program. So yeah, there's my website. I think that Joyce already did a little bit of digging on my website. I'll show it to you here. So homepage, and yes, this is the book that Joyce was talking about. So if you want to know more about my research, you can come here. Don't ever write a book. It's horrible. It was like a horrible experience. I'd much rather write journal papers because that's about 30 pages is my attention span. But here are all the 2020 data science fellows, and that's the first class of students. But this kind of gives you a picture of what I'm up to, and then my publication page. You can click on any of those if you're interested. But I didn't want to just I didn't want to just talk about my research. I really wanted to recruit you guys to take the data science class and hopefully be interested in that, and potentially also do the summer program. So yeah, I see one question in the chat. Can you minor in data sciences at Baylor? I don't know the answer to that yet. I know in statistics, the statistics degree, you can have like an emphasis in data science, but I'm not sure about minoring, but that's a good question. I'll try to I'll try to find out. All right. So should I just answer questions in the chat, or do you guys have other things you need to do now?
You can go ahead and answer them now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any advice for
the chat?
Yeah, any advice for self-learning to code? Um, self-learning to code. The problem now is there's like a proliferation, an over proliferation of resources. And so it's hard to know where to start. But there's tons and tons of YouTube videos. We code in the class in what's called R. So we're all about open source programming languages, R, Python, etc. Opinions about coding or data science boot camps. Do them. Do as many as you can. You know, my personal preference is I use R all the time. I'd like to learn Python. I just never seem to have time to get around to it because I've got too many projects going on. But if you don't take the class, we've actually put together our own R boot camp that sort of takes you through the basics. So we provide that R boot camp for students who are going to be in the summer program who haven't taken the class to kind of at least, you want to have at least seen R before and know how to open it up and know how to load a data set, for example. What's the class code? I'm not sure what that means. Maybe just R. The class number is, I'll put it in the chat, it's STA or CSI 2300. So it's cross-listed between statistics and computer science, so depending on where you want to take it. The summer program, last year we had 18 students participate, and we had hoped to have 30 students, and I didn't do as much recruiting like I'm doing now this year because we had a lot of things to get on the table last year. So we're hoping to get at least 30 this year. And if we don't get them between Baylor and Colorado School of Mines, so we're kind of we open it up first to Baylor students and Colorado School of Mines students since they're our partner, then we might actually open it up to anyone, because if you can be anywhere, then it doesn't matter what university you're at, right? You just have to be committed to the 5 weeks because it really is like full time for those 5 weeks. Possible applications of using R as a programming language. Well, you can apply statistics to anything and everything. And of course, my interest is environmental applications. But the coolest thing I've applied my research to is not environmental at all. We looked at crime data, and not just crime data, but they're called serial offenders. So people who perpetrated the same crime over and over and over again. It's called like a time series. It's like of crimes. So this person just continued to offend. They offended the first time and didn't get caught, so they did it again and again and again. But then by the time they did get caught, you know, there was something so unique about what they did that they could connect all of these other, for example, burglaries to this person. So just as an example, there was one, they were called the doggy door burglar because they always went in through the doggy door if there was some sort of dog door, and they would go in and they would steal things when people aren't home. That's a burglary. And so what we did was we looked at, you know, police reports will fill in all sorts of data and information about each individual crime. So what we wanted to look at is if we ignored the fact that the different types of crime were linked to each other, could we kind of come in and just use the data to find those groups, to find and link all of the groups to the same individual? And so that was a cool project. And I think we had success with about 70 to 80% of the crimes we could actually link back to the same serial offender, just based on the characteristics of the data. That was a cool thing. Yeah. now I kind of just do, when you're in academia, you tend to do the research that gets funded. So you have lots of ideas about things that you want to do. But when someone funds it, then you actually have to do it. So I tend to work on projects that get funded, and everything I'm working on right now has to do with water, wastewater treatment, and the federal government has just infused a huge amount of research dollars into improving water and wastewater treatment for the next generation. And so Baylor's a part of that group as well. All right. I don't know what other questions there may be. How many STEM majors joined your 2300 class? I think they were mostly STEM majors. There were maybe one or two that weren't, but the majority of them were STEM.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so alongside our pre-grad population, we have a lot of people on the pre-med track, and I'm sure they'd be interested in how data science intersects with medicine. Do you think data science is critical for physicians to know, especially given all the data being generated in like electronic records and things like that?
Yes. I have never really worked with human subjects. That's something that I've actually kind of avoided in my career. But I have some family members who have recently been diagnosed with cancer. And so now I have read so many journal articles about, different cancer treatments and different cancer types. And yes, it's absolutely critical that I think that doctors understand what they read, because, as I'm sitting in doctors' offices and they give me statistics about, overall survival or progression-free survival and all these different things, I'm like, okay, well, I understand that the mean progression-free survival is 12 months, but tell me what the variability is around that, because you may have some people who are on this drug for 6 months and then their disease progresses, or you may have someone who's on this drug for 8 years before their disease progresses, and that's a huge amount of variability. And so I think that patients need to understand these sorts of things and understand that the variability in them, and they're not going to understand that unless doctors can explain it to them. And so I feel like it's really important for doctors, one, to be able to communicate not only averages, but this concept of uncertainty, which is inherent in what we do as statisticians, to be able to communicate that to patients, but also to be able to read the literature, like your journal articles that you're doing, to be able to read those papers and say, okay, here's treatment A and B, and are they significantly different? So is one significantly better than the other one? So if this one is, say, progression-free survival is 2 months more, but there's a huge amount of variability, then it kind of clouds the issue. But if this one, say, is 7 months more progression-free survival, plus or minus 1 month, that's a pretty clear indication that this new treatment works better. So I think that it's really important. And of course, COVID, epidemiology is huge, right? How does disease spread? How do masks work? How do you study if a mask works? How do you design experiments? How do you collect data so that you know that your study is unbiased? I think all of those are super important for all of you pre-meds.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Herring.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's about it with the questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Herring.
Yeah, and I hope to see some of you guys.
Of course. And if you guys have more questions, feel free to email Dr. Herring, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Yep.
All right, so we're just about done, but we have a couple more things we want to share with you guys.
Okay, so this is a sneak peek of our t-shirt that y'all will be getting soon. And we're having, Baylor's doing the whole rebranding thing, so it's going to be held off a little bit, but y'all will get these awesome t-shirts soon, and they're included in your dues. So yeah. And then please connect with us on social media. Feel free to email us. The main platform we'll be using is Instagram. So feel free to DM on the Instagram if you have questions, engage with the posts and stories and all that stuff. As always, check out our website. We have a lot of awesome information there. And we're going to be starting to post these meetings and stuff on our YouTube page. That'll also be a really cool platform you guys can check out.
All right, well, that's all from us. Thank you all so much for coming out to our first general meeting. Our second one will be in 2 weeks via Zoom, so come out for that. And as a reminder, new members, remember to pay your dues and fill out the membership form, and returning members also pay your dues. And because you were here, you will receive 1 general point. So definitely take a picture of this QR code and fill out the form so that Tiffany can award your points. And then if you still have time, stick around for our post-meeting social. It'll happen right after this general meeting is over, so in just a few minutes. But that's it from us. So you guys are welcome to go or stay for the social.
Quick thing, the sign-in says that the Baylor email must be a number.
Oh, okay. So not everyone has a number in their email. Let me fix that real quick.